As a new long-term ceasefire proposal emerges, hopes and skepticism grow. The plan calls for a 5 to 7 year truce, full withdrawal of the Israeli occupation forces from Gaza, and the release of all detainees. It also envisions the strip administered by independent Palestinian technocrats and regional guarantees to ensure lasting calm. But will this finally lead to peace in Gaza? Can Gaza's war-weary population finally hope for relief? Let's find out. I'm Henny Saif, and let's go in depth. The Independent has reported that Arab mediators led by Egypt are presenting new proposal to end the war in Gaza. The plan includes a 5 to 7 year ceasefire, the release of all detainees, a full occupation forces withdrawal, and the governance of Gaza by independent Palestinian technocrats. Hamas has signaled willingness to accept this framework, provided there are international guarantees and a full Israeli withdrawal. Israel has not officially commented, but maintains it will not allow any arrangement that keeps Hamas in Gaza. The US supports Israel's position and is pushing for a temporary truce that does not include full ceasefire and withdrawal. The newspaper added that sources say mediators believe Trump is seeking a deal before his Middle East visit in May. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes continue across Gaza. 9 Palestinians were killed overnight, including 5 in a school-turned-shelter. Gaza's humanitarian crisis is worsening, with severe shortages of food and medicine. A new ceasefire proposal for Gaza calls for a 5 to 7 year truce, full withdrawal of Israeli forces, and the release of detainees. It suggests independent Palestinian governance and disarmament, offering a framework for ending the war.
A new ceasefire proposal has surfaced, offering a long-term framework to end the war on Gaza. The proposal suggests a truce lasting 5 to 7 years, a complete halt to hostilities, and a full withdrawal of the Israeli occupation forces from the Strip. Palestinian officials say the plan includes the release of all Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons in exchange for all detainees held in Gaza. It also outlines a permanent ceasefire, the lifting of the aid blockade Israel imposed, and the rebuilding of Gaza's devastated infrastructure. The proposal introduced a detailed 5-point framework, including disarmament of factions under supervision and the transfer of Gaza's governance to an independent body of Palestinian technocrats. Regional and international guarantees are part of the plan to ensure implementation. A source from Hamas has described the initiative as an level of flexibility not seen in previous rounds. The Israeli occupation has not responded yet to the proposal. The new proposal comes after repeated failures to restore calm and growing international pressure to end the war. It marks a renewed effort by mediators to shift from temporary truces to a long-term resolution. But despite the momentum, major questions remain. Will the proposal gain traction, or will the broader Israeli war on Gaza continue to rage, leaving Gaza trapped between destruction and deadlock?
And for more analysis, we are joined from Cairo by Dr. Mohammed Osman, the International Relations Specialist, and from Jericho by Abdel Nasser Mekki, the Political Science Professor. Gentlemen, welcome to In Depth. Dr. Maki, I'll start off with you first. Now, the media reports revealed that a new proposal suggests a ceasefire in Gaza lasting between 5 to 7 years. It includes the release of all Palestinian detainees and a complete halt to hostilities. Now, what do you make up and how do you evaluate such conditions?
Yes, first of all, thank you for you and also for your guest from Cairo. Just for one correction, it is the Israeli detainees, not the Palestinian, because the detainees is from Israel. They are in Gaza from the Israeli detainees. For this proposal, I think it came after, that the 51 days from the airstrike against Gaza, and also from all the aggression and the cutting of all the water and also the fuel, the electricity, and the starvation, which now, after 1 week, it will be miserable condition in Gaza. So this proposal is coming after the visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Doha and meet with the prince in Doha in order that they to reach to compromise and settlements for the war in Gaza. Especially the Israeli forces and the Israeli government is not responsive, and they are just attacking Gaza. They just killing the people there, the civilian people, the innocent people, and without doing or achieve any from their objective, which is to beat Hamas and also to release the detainees. This is the things that not happened until now. So in order to reach to compromise between the Israeli and between Hamas, the two mediators, Qatar and Egypt, and I think also the participation of the United States of America, they started for a new, suggestions, proposal, which is to, to have ceasefire from 5 to 7 years, and also to release all the Israeli detainees and the Palestinian prisoners from the prisoners, and also to end the war. Also, Hamas accepted not to participate to be on the head of the regimes in Gaza, and they also accepted that there will be a committee technocrat from independent body from the Palestinian technocrat, and this was before as a supporting social committee, which was on the first agreement, and it should be on the third stage of the agreement. I think until now the Israelis not response, and from my point of view, I think the Israeli will not respond until there is a pressure from Witkoff and from the American administration to pressure in Israel in order to stop the war and to go to this, that's new proposal. And after that, I think the Israeli will fulfill and to be commitment. But for this matter, I think the Israeli is just they are that's earned the time. They continue to kill the people, continue to pressure on Hamas. They think that by this way they could have new, give up by Hamas and to reach to new, that's a new agreement which Hamas could accept it on the that airstrike, pressure, and killing the people. So until now, Hamas said that it's willing to accept this and send their of Hamas, Mr. And I think the Israeli will send also one delegation, but until now we didn't hear this until now.
Yes, well, my question now goes to you, Dr. Osman. Now, the proposed truce mentions regional and international guarantees. Which regional powers are best positioned to offer credible guarantees, and what kind of guarantees are we actually talking about?
Thank you for having me, Hani. Greetings to you and your honorable guest from Jericho and the dear audience, of course. Such an agreement that is being proposed right now by the mediators, basically Egypt and Qatar, cannot go into place and cannot take effect effectively, meaning effective implementation without international and regional guarantors. And naturally, of course, the first candidates for being a few among a multitude of potential guarantors would be Qatar and Egypt themselves, in addition to other prominent Arab countries who are known for their moderation, like Jordan and Saudi Arabia. These countries can play a very pivotal role in acting as guarantors of this agreement. And of course, the United States has to be one of the guarantors, because the United States is the only power in the world that can keep Israel in check, and also other guarantors like potentially the European Union or even Russia could be in the equation due to their history in peace efforts with regards to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or the Palestinian cause in general. However, before we delve into the idea of the guarantors, we should also point out that this agreement, this proposed agreement, is by far the most reasonable, the most sound proposal that we have heard in a while. It corresponds to realities on the ground. It takes into account the egregious demands of the Israelis that we have no other option but to deal with. And also it takes into account the continuity of Palestinian existence. It prioritizes that, the continuity of Palestinian existence inside the Gaza Strip. As your honorable guest has said before, and you have said before in the introduction, it's a 5 to 7 years ceasefire. And by the way, this is not the first time such an idea was pitched. In 2006, Hamas pitched the idea of a 10-year truce between it and Israel. Israel rejected that. However, now the situation is different. This is happening in the midst of the worst war the occupied Palestinian territories have ever seen. And the issue of the Palestinian cause that stretches back to over 6 years or 77 years. So and it also dictates or obliges Israel to withdraw from the Gaza Strip. In return, there will be the Hamas will relinquish power, will disarm, and it will be replaced as a governing body by the Communal Support Committee as a transitional governmental entity until the rule or the administration of the Palestinian Authority is restored to the Gaza Strip. And of course, there will be a prisoner exchange, there will be facilitation once more of the humanitarian aid, and the Egyptian Arab reconstruction plan will be implemented. I think this is a formula that delivers to Israel the release of the detainees and the disarmament of Hamas, but at the same time, it does ensure a long-term cessation of hostilities with international guarantors, the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and an utter rejection of the idea and prevention as well of the idea of the forced displacement of the Palestinians. This is a chance that we should not miss. The Palestinian factions, including Hamas, are reportedly very flexible and willing to play game and interact positively with such a proposal. However, of course, the ball now is in Israel's court. And the United States should exercise substantial pressure on Israel to compel them to accept such a ceasefire, because if the Israelis are left to their own devices, they will never accept this proposal, unfortunately, for reasons that I might dwell upon later on.
Well, Dr. Makki, following Hamas's rejection of Israel's partial truce offer before, Hamas is now showing what might be described as unprecedented flexibility. Now, what has changed in Hamas' internal or external environment to make this flexibility possible? What does this tell us about shifting of the political calculations of Hamas?
First of all, I think Hamas is not willing to stay on the political regimes in Gaza. This is one thing that they declare, frankly, to say that they didn't want to stay on the top of the political regimes in Gaza to rule Gaza. This is the first thing. The first things. The other thing is that that because the pressures on Hamas from Qatar and also from Egypt, that they should accept this for the sake of the Palestinian people in Gaza, because this suggestion will be good for them and for the people in order to recover from the war, and also to enter all the assistance from all aspects, from the food, water, medical And also, the destructive in Gaza is huge. And because of this, I think Hamas accepted this in order that the people in Gaza will come back to their life. And also, everything is destroyed. So, and also at the same time, Hamas will stay. According to them, and according to even what Israeli put on their agenda, and especially Netanyahu, for its objectives of the war, nothing have been happened. Hamas still there. The detainees will be released by negotiation and by other agreement. So at the end, Israel didn't achieve or Netanyahu achieved what he put on his mind, that he want to release the detainees by the airstrike, by the force, and also the force of this displacement of the people. So because of this, I think Hamas, also the power of Hamas is not like before when they started the 7th of October. So also to say frankly and to be logic in this, I think Hamas accepted this because also they realized that at the end they couldn't even refuse this proposal. It's good for them, and it's better than to come other proposal will maybe be bad for them. So I think Hamas accepted this, and also there is pressure from the United Nations, from the international community, that to release the detainees, which was one of the cases in all the world, the detainees for the people of Gaza. This is what the international community, especially on the European Union, said, that Hamas should release the detainees. It was for them humanitarian cases. Also, at the same time, Hamas accepted this also because they want the end of the war, which will be in this proposal. But also at the same time, Hamas said that they will accept this, but also there will be the conditions that this will be the end of the war, not just the ceasefire. So the
Yes.
end of the war is one of the things that Hamas, or condition that Hamas, that suggested, and they will accepted this. And I think in the negotiation in Cairo, I think they will present this to the Egyptian and to the Qatarian, mediators, in order to tell them that they will accept this, but there should be also the guarantee, as you ask about the international and regional guarantee for implementation of this. I think the United States of America, the European Union, and the Arab country, especially after the Arab League and summit in Cairo, I think they should be also
The
witness
guarantors.
and also observer on this.
Dr. Osman, Israel hasn't responded to the proposal yet, and there is reasonable doubt that Netanyahu's government will take issue with the call for full withdrawal. Why is the occupation hesitant to engage with such a comprehensive framework?
For a very simple reason, Hadi. Netanyahu refuses to engage in any agreement that will force him to conclude this war. Netanyahu always wants to have the option on the table to resume hostilities whenever he sees fit, in accordance, of course, with his own political calculations and the needs for the means of his political survival, and also to market, to come out with results out of this war that he can market as a victory for Israel. So it's highly unlikely that Israel will accept this proposal unless they are subjected to substantial US pressure. And because all the formulas that Israel is proposing is temporary ceasefires or truces, basically, and exchanges, day-to-day exchanges, and limited entry of humanitarian aid. And of course, these very temporary ceasefires are always timed by certain time periods. After the expiration, Israel might reserve the right to resume hostilities, and also the idea that they will withdraw from the buffer zones they have created in southern Gaza and Rafah, beyond the Barrage corridor, and also throughout the border between Gaza and Israel, about 2 kilometers deep. In most areas, the buffer zone is that the Israelis are very reluctant to withdraw from these parts of the Gaza Strip. So these are the formulas they always propose that reject the idea of definitively ending the war. On the other hand, the United States, as things stands, there is an upcoming tour by President Trump of the Middle East. He's supposed to go visit 3 Arab countries in the Gulf, and he is by mid-May, and he is very interested in achieving some sort of breakthrough, reportedly at least, according to the U.S. media, in Gaza prior to his visit. So I think the Egyptian-Qatari proposal by the mediators presents a formula that could be very convenient to the American conditions for ending this war and for the Israeli conditions as well, partially at least, because the only problem for them is that it takes the idea of displacement off the table and it ensures the return of the Palestinian Authority. And at the same time, as we said, it ensures the continuation of Palestinian existence in Gaza. This is the most important thing. So as it stands, my final sentence would be Israel will be compelled to accept this agreement if the US wishes that they do so.
Well, hopefully so. Now, Dr. Maki, the proposal reportedly includes the disarmament of Hamas and the withdrawal of the occupation army from Gaza. Will all the parties of the conflict be agreeable to such conditions, and what sort of guarantees could or would the Palestinian factions need to consider this viable?
Yes, I think this is a good question because, as you know, the Israeli, nobody knows that Israeli, from their history, they are not implemented even people for their promises and for what's happening in Gaza and also in West Bank. So, as you know, you see now in what's happening in the north part of West Bank, and also after the Oslo Accord, the Israeli didn't fulfill and commitment to their, the Oslo Accord, and now for Gaza and even for the first stage of the agreement. Also, the Israeli didn't even continue for the second stage, but also go to the war before 51 days. So I think this is the good questions, and this will be for the United States and also the mediators in order that Israel should be commitment and restricted to this proposal. In the same time, when you talk about disarming Hamas, I think Hamas it will stay. This is the most important thing for Hamas is to that they will stay in Gaza, even they will be disarmed. I think they will accept this, and also this supporting the new committee, independent committee, to be, that's rule Gaza by independent technocrat committee, and also at the same time. I think they will be from 5 to 7 years. They will be like a ceasefire and also the end of the war. So for Hamas, I think they will accept this. They give some marks and signals that they will go for this, but with some conditions that Israeli should end the war and not come back to the airstrike or the aggression. And for the Israeli, the problem for the Israeli, the internal, that the Israeli now, they have the extreme governments, they have the extreme ministers, and also groups of the faction in Israel. They are refused. They want to go to occupied Gaza again and to even establish settlements. So this is the dilemmas inside Israeli. There is a problem inside Israeli, especially for the even for the family of the detainees and also for the opposition Israeli. The opposition, and also for what's happening between Netanyahu and the head of the Shabab. They accuse themselves that this lying and that Netanyahu want the Shabab to be his eyes for the in his court. So this is the things inside Israeli, that system. So if the Israeli system still like this, I don't think that Israeli will go to this proposal. But one thing will, that pressure on Israeli, that the visit of Trump to the Middle East, especially for the Saudi Arabia next month, I think that Trump want to see the war is end, and he want to see the calm on the Middle East, especially in Gaza and Israel. So I think this is the things that maybe will Israeli go and accepted the proposal of the 5 to 7 years ceasefire.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Abdel Nasser Maki, the political science professor, and Dr. Mohammed Osman, the international relations specialist. Thank you, gentlemen, for your insights. Hopefully, the potential Middle East visit by the American President Donald Trump can actually have some sort of an influence on the occupation forces for both parties to see eye to eye on this new proposal. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode of In Depth. I'm Henny Seif. Thank you for watching.